Welcome back! If you've been following along with this series, our ultimate palette is really starting to come together. We've already filled in our beautiful yellows, warm reds, gorgeous violets, and now we're moving into one of my favorite sections of the palette, the coastal blues. If you're new to this series, I use ChatGPT to fill a 48-pan palette. ChatGPT did all the analysis to bring the best colors for mixing and specific convenience colors as well. The palette has multiple brands, which are the best of the best for that color. So let's move in to our part 3A. These colors instantly remind me of blue skies, crystal clear water, ocean waves, peaceful lakes, and those quiet mornings when the light seems to dance across the water. Even though they're all considered blue, they have a completely different personality. Some create soft, dreamy skies. Others produce incredible texture because they granulate so beautifully. And a couple of them are incredibly vibrant, making them perfect for tropical waters or brilliant color mixes. By the end of today's video, I hope you'll not only see how these blues are, but also understand why each one was chosen for the ultimate palette. So let's get started with one of the most beloved sky colors in watercolor. So the 6 colors we're meeting today are cerulean blue, cerulean blue chromium, manganese blue hue, cobalt teal blue, heliocerulean, and phthalo blue green shade. We are starting off with the soft ceruleans. So these are for peaceful skies, atmospheric perspective, and natural granulating textures. So every color watercolor artist reaches for this first for your skies. This cerulean blue is from Winsor & Newton Professional line. So whenever someone asks which blue they should buy for painting skies, cerulean blue is almost always part of the conversation. There's just something incredibly calming about this color. It isn't loud or overpowering. Instead, it quietly creates soft, believable skies that look natural and almost without trying. Some of the feedback I received from our first set of videos is they wanted more pigment information. So here we have pigment code PB35, which is cobalt stannate. That means it's semi-transparent, it's a cool temperature, has medium granulation, and excellent light fastness. So one of the reasons I chose Winsor & Newton version is because it has such a beautiful handling. The pigment disperses evenly, and as it dries, you begin to see that gentle granulation that gives watercolors so much character. Unlike many modern blues, cerulean blue isn't a staining color. That means if you work carefully, you can often lift it back up off the paper to create soft clouds or subtle highlights. That's incredibly helpful, especially with us just beginning in watercolor. I also love that it isn't a blue that overwhelms your painting. Instead, it naturally fits into the background, which makes distant mountains, atmospheric perspective, and open skies look wonderfully convincing. Whenever I'm painting peaceful landscapes, winter scenes, snowy shadows, or soft coastal skies, this is usually the first blue I reach for. Some of my favorite mixes for this color is with buff titanium to make beautiful snow shadows, quinacridone rose for delicate lavender skies, and yellow ochre for muted natural greens. So if you're only going to own one traditional sky blue, cerulean blue is very difficult to meet. Now, let's look at another cerulean that has a completely different personality. At first glance, these colors appear similar, but once they dry on the paper, the differences become obvious. Starting off, our next color is cerulean blue chromium. So this is one of those colors that seems almost magical. Every time I paint with it, I'm reminded why granulating pigments are so popular. Instead of drying into a perfectly smooth wash, this paint settles into the texture of the paper and creates a beautiful natural pattern all by itself. It's almost like the paint is helping you to create texture. The pigment information for this color is PB36, which is cobalt chromium oxide. It's semi-transparent, it has a cool temperature, it has heavy granulation, but it also has excellent light fastness. So PB36 is a traditional cobalt pigment that has been loved by watercolor artists for generations. In Daniel Smith's version, it's especially beautiful because the granulation is so pronounced. If you enjoy letting watercolor do what watercolor does best, this color is incredibly rewarding to paint with. As it dries, you'll notice tiny variations throughout the wash that add life and movement without any extra effort. That's why I often use this color for rocky coastlines, weathered buildings, textured skies, stone walls, and ocean scenes. It creates a visual interest that would take much longer to paint manually. And it's great for beginners. One thing to remember is that it isn't meant to replace cerulean blue. Instead, they complement each other beautifully. So cerulean blue gives me those soft, atmospheric skies, where cerulean blue chromium gives me the texture. Having both in the palette gives me options, depending on the mood I want to create in my painting. Some of my favorite mixes with this is burnt sienna for a weathered stone and old buildings. With buff titanium, it gives texture for cloudy skies. With quinacridone rose, you use that for some muted floral shadows. So if you enjoy granulating watercolors, I think you'll quickly understand why this paint earned a permanent place in my ultimate palette. We've started with two beautiful traditional blues that excel at soft skies and natural texture. Now it's time to shift into something much brighter, more tropical, and one of the happiest blues in my entire palette. Now we move into Manganese Blue Hue. This one is by Schmincke. So we're moving on to a color that instantly changes the mood of the palette. So every time I squeeze this paint into my palette, I start thinking about tropical vacations, crystal clear water, and those incredible shades of turquoise you only seem to find along the coast. This is one of those colors that simply makes you happy when you use it. It has an energy that's completely different from the softer ceruleans we just looked at. Those color whisper. This one smiles. The swatch shows you how beautiful that blue is. Can you imagine yourself on a vacation in water that clean? So the pigment information for this one is PB 15.3 and PG7. PB 15.3 is a phthalo blue green shade, which we'll see in just a moment. PG7 is phthalo green, allowing this to move a little bit to the green side. It's transparent, it's cool, it has no granulation, and it has excellent light fastness. And although this is called Manganese Blue Hue, it's important to note that it isn't the original manganese blue pigment. The original pigment is no longer produced by most manufacturers because of environmental and safety concerns. Instead, Schmincke created a beautiful modern replacement using phthalo blue and phthalo green. The result captures that bright turquoise character while offering excellent permanence and consistency. One of the things I love most about this color is how clean and luminous it looks. It doesn't have the granulating texture of the ceruleans, but instead it flows smoothly across the paper, creating bright, glowing washes that almost seem to sparkle. So this is the color I reach for when I'm painting tropical oceans, swimming pools, Caribbean waters, beach scenes, glass bottles, sea glass, bright summer skies, and tropical birds. And because this is non-granulating, it mixes really, really well into other colors. So you can combine it with lemon yellow and you'll get a fresh spring greens that are perfect for new foliage. You can also mix it with quinacridone rose and you'll create a soft lavender tone that are wonderful for the florals. One of my favorite combinations, though, is a buff titanium, which produces gorgeous sea glass colors and weathered coastal tones. So if you're painting beaches or coastal landscapes, this is the color you'll probably reach for often. So now we've gone from soft atmospheric blues to bright tropical water. Now we're about to add one of the most unique colors in the entire Ultimate palette. And honestly, every time I use it now, I find myself smiling. Next up is Cobalt Teal Blue, and this is by Daniel Smith. So, if I had to describe this color in one word, it would be beautiful. It's not practical, not versatile, just beautiful. So Cobalt Teal Blue has a personality all its own. It's one of those colors that people notice immediately because there really isn't another color watercolor that quite looks like it. So our pigment information for this one is pigment code PG50. Pigment name is Cobalt Titanate. It is semi-opaque and it's in the cool temperature family. It also has heavy granulation, but it also has excellent light fastness. So unlike the previous color, Cobalt Teal Blue is made from a genuine cobalt pigment. And that's one of the reasons it has such a distinctive granulation. As it dries, the pigment settles into the paper beautifully. It produces a soft texture and subtle variations that are impossible to fake. Even though this isn't a color I use in every single painting, whenever I do reach for it, it becomes one of the stars of the painting. So it's wonderful for all those tropical water things, but it's also good for succulents. It's the beautiful green color of peacock feathers. Some decorative florals will meet this beautifully. If you're into vintage illustrations, it gives you that soft, older glow. And it's also used as abstract backgrounds. Because of that little granulation in there, it really helps just change the background. Also, it's good for patina on copper and weathered metal. So I especially love using it when I want something that feels a little different from the typical blues and greens found in most watercolor palettes. As we move into mixing, it has a lot of great mixing opportunities. So you can mix it with quinacridone rose for a muted, dusty mauve color. Buff titanium will help you for the vintage sea foam colors. Burnt sienna helps you to make beautiful, soft neutrals. And raw sienna works better for weathered and coastal textures. One thing to keep in mind is that because this is a semi-opaque cobalt pigment, it behaves differently than the transparent phthalo colors. It won't produce those intense, glowing, transparent washes. Instead, it gives you softness, texture, and character. That's exactly why I picked this for my palette. So every color doesn't need to do the same job. Some colors are chosen because they're workhorses. Others are chosen because they create effects that nothing else can. And cobalt teal blue definitely falls into that category. So far, we've looked at colors that are peaceful, textured, and tropical. Our final two blues today are different again. These are the powerhouse blues of the palette. They're bright, bold, incredibly strong mixers that can completely transform a painting with just the smallest touch of pigment. So first, we've looked at some beautifully colored, textured cobalt pigments, and now we're moving into a completely different category of blue. These next two are smooth, incredibly vibrant, and extremely powerful mixers. A tiny bit of paint completely transforms a wash. So I tend to use them with a light touch. When I need brilliance, clean mixes, or intense color, these next two are the blues I reach for. So first up, we have Cerulean. This is from Schmincke, and this is one of those colors that always catches my eye when I open my palette. It's bright, clean, and incredibly luminous. If you've ever painted tropical skies or brilliant blue water and thought, I wish my blues just had a little more sparkle, this might be the color you're looking for. Even though it has cerulean in the name, don't expect it to behave like the traditional cerulean blues we looked at earlier. This is a completely different pigment with a completely different personality. While AI selected these colors, they also helped me do a lot of research on these pigment codes. So for Cerulean, we have pigment PB15-3. This is phthalo blue green shade. And you'll notice it doesn't actually look like our phthalo blue green shade, even though it's the same pigment. This one is transparent. It is cool. There's no granulation, so it mixes really good. And it's excellent light fascinating. So one of the things I appreciate most about Schmincke's version is just how clean it is. It flows beautifully across the paper, creating a smooth wash with almost no texture. That makes it ideal when I want a crisp, luminous color rather than the textured look of the cobalt pigments. Because it's a phthalo pigment, it has exceptional tinting strength. Just a teeny tiny amount goes a long way. So I always remind myself to start with less than I think I need, because it's much easier to add more color than to try and remove it later. So, what can you use Cerulean for? Like we've been talking about in these last few colors, those tropical landscapes and seascapes. Here's your perfect beach color, especially as you get closer to the sand. It's also great for summer skies, giving you that bright, open sky. You can also use this for the reflections on glass. Contemporary florals also like this color because of its smoothness. And vibrant architectural details. So even if you're doing urban sketching and urban watercolors, this is a great pigment as well. And because of that, it creates some incredible mixtures. So if you mix it with quinacridone magenta, you'll get brilliant violets that almost glow. But if you put it with lemon yellow, you'll create vivid spring greens that are perfect for fresh foliage. So if you want dramatic storm skies, try adding just a touch of Payne's Gray. This combination creates a deep, moody blue without looking muddy. And one thing I love about this paint is that it brings energy into the painting. Some colors quietly support the composition, but Cerulean likes to be noticed. And when used thoughtfully, it can become one of the most exciting colors to have on your palette. So one final color today shares the same pigment family, but it has its own unique characteristics. If Cerulean is refined and elegant, this next blue is bold, powerful, and one of the hardest working colors in the entire palette. And so for our final color today, we have phthalo blue green shade from Core. And if I could only use one word to describe this paint, it would also be powerful. This color is famous among watercolor artists for a good reason. It has an incredible strength, unbelievable saturation, and mixes with almost everything. In fact, it's probably one of the most versatile blues you can own. That said, it does demand a little bit of respect. Moving in to the pigment information, this one is also pigment code PB15.3. Same as the last one, with Phthalo Blue the Green shade as the name. It's transparent, it's cool, has no granulation, but it has excellent light fastness. And then, although it's the same pigment as heliocerylene, every manufacturer formulates their paints differently. Core's binder system gives this version an exceptional flow and vibrant color, and it makes it feel slightly different when in use. This is one of the highest staining pigments in all of watercolor. Once it settles onto the paper, it's not easy to lift. So you have to plan your washes carefully before you put the brush on the paper. The good news is that this incredible staining strength also makes it an outstanding mixing color. So I use it for ocean waves, deep water, dramatic skies, some botanical paintings, tropical landscapes, wildlife even, and it makes some strong shadow mixes. But because it's so concentrated, I usually have to begin with the tiniest touch of pigment. It's amazing how much a single brush load can cover. So some of my favorite mixes include Hansa Yellow Light for a brilliant light green, Quinacridone Magenta for rich violets, Burnt Sienna for deep, natural darks that can replace black in many paintings, Raw Sienna for a beautiful muted landscape color, and Payne's Gray for those dramatic storm clouds and the deep ocean shadows. So this is one of those colors that earns its place simply because of its versatility. It may not be the blue I use most by itself, but it plays an important role in countless color mixtures. And for me, that's what it makes an essential member of the Ultimate Palette. Today, we've explored 6 blues that prove just how diverse the color blue can be. We started with the soft, peaceful character of the ceruleans. We moved into the bright turquoise tones of manganese blue hue and cobalt tea blue, and finished with 2 incredibly vibrant phthalo-based blues that bring energy and versatility to almost any painting. What I love most is that each of these colors has a different purpose. They didn't choose 6 blues because they all look alike. AI chose them because each one does something different that the others can't. So as you continue building your own palette, remember that this isn't about owning the most colors. It's about choosing the colors that can contribute something. One thing to note is we visited 3 different cerulean blues. It's important to watch for the name and the pigment colors because each of them are different. You'll want to swatch your colors before you put them on the painting to make sure you have the right blue for that setting. In our next episode, we're going to continue our journey into the deeper blues and begin exploring the beautiful greens that bring forests, landscapes, and botanical buildings to life. I can't wait to share those with you. Until then, thank you so much for walking along with me.